This podcast is hosted on podhome.fm, the most modern podcast hosting platform. Podhome offers unlimited episodes and podcasts, and unlimited use of Podhome AI, which generates transcripts, clips, chapters, title suggestions, show notes, and much more. And all of that for just $15.99 a month or $185 per year. That's a steal. So go to podhome.fm and start your 30-day trial now. And enjoy the show with Joe.
It's the Joe Rooz Show, the show where we talk about anything and everything, where nothing is sacred, nothing is watered down, and nothing is PC.
All righty. Well, hey, folks, this is Joe Rooz, and it is great to be with you once again, transmitting to you live tonight from the asylum and doing the very best we can to bring you the best quality talk radio we can muster without all the bluster. Welcome to the show, folks. Well, tonight we got a real treat for you. I'm really excited to talk to this young guy. And I say young, I don't know how old he is. He looks young, but I don't know. We'll see. Maybe I'll ask him. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this. It's been a long day. I'm tired. I'm babbling. But tonight we have joining us Jeff Crisina.
got it on the second try.
I was practicing it during the opening while I was listening to everything set up. Kruszyna. So he's Jeff K. He's the founder and CEO of JMK Victory, which is a conservative fundraising agency that's helped Republican campaigns, PACs, advocacy groups raise more than $100 million through something that not very many organizations use: direct mail and donor strategy. Jeff, welcome to the show, bro.
Thank you so much for having me, Joe. Looking forward to a good conversation. Hopefully I won't filibuster too much.
Well, no, you might need to. you might need to. If the start of the show is anything as an example of how I'm going to be tonight, then it might be better if you did. No, but seriously, it's just been one of those days. So Jeff, we had a great conversation before the show started, and we actually covered a lot of ground, and we're gonna get into some of that stuff again anyway. Just do me one favor, if you can,
Sure.
could just turn the gain up on your mic just a little bit.
Sure. Let me see if I can figure out how to do that.
I think you can do it on the little pancake there on your screen.
Yeah.
Just a pinch. Sounded great in the pre-show, but all of a sudden the sound just dropped off.
Let's see if that worked.
Yes, it did.
Okay, there we go. Cool.
Perfecto. Perfect. Wonderful. There we go. All right. I don't know if you guys heard the little bling thing, but I'm fixing things on my end too. It's funny. Like I remember I told you before the show started, I was moving some things around here. I disconnected some stuff, and I put it all back together again, and now nothing's working the way it's supposed to work. So this is not the usual treatment that a guest gets on my show.
It's okay. Right? As a fellow New Yorker, I don't take any offense.
All right. Well, good. That's good. We understand how things work. All right. So, Jeff, I want to kind of jump right into this because you got a great story, and your background's amazing. When I was reading through your profile, your background, your pedigree, as we call it here on the show, you really do have a very interesting take on things, and I'm excited to talk to you about this stuff, especially getting into the direct mail things, because there's it's an interesting thing. Not too many people do that, but before we get really anywhere into the politics and fundraising, so you started off really as a computer science guy. Mm-hmm. So what did you think your life was going to look like?
Yeah, I mean, I thought, we're talking about late 90s into the early 2000s, the new millennium. And, right in the kind of wake of the dot-com bubble bursting, but still kind of technology, internet, everything was still kind of, front of mind. So went to college at SUNY Stony Brook out on Long Island. Declared computer science major, thinking I was going to go work in tech, whether that was Computer Associates out on Long Island or Microsoft, or Google really wasn't what Google is back then.
Right.
But something in that field, using kind of the computer science, tech, programming background. But God definitely had a different plan in store for me. And so on that Tuesday morning, that's all of us now know where we were, September 11th, almost 25 years ago to the day. Was walking in between classes when just sort of, and this is pre-smartphones. I don't think I actually had a real cell phone at that point, but, people are talking, something's clearly, wrong. I asked someone, like, what's going on? They say a plane, flew into one of the Twin Towers. And so a bunch of us just kind of, made our way over to the Student Activity Center, closest place where there were TVs set up. And that's where we saw on repeat what everyone else has seen. And that was, the second plane hitting the second tower. Then, the reports of the Pentagon, the other plane that went down in Shanksville. And it was at that moment that something stirred inside of me. At the time, I didn't really understand it or realize what was going on. Now, hindsight of 25-ish years, it was God's hand moving me and changing my career trajectory and pushing me into getting involved politically, changing my major to political science, getting heavily involved in local campaigns, and ultimately finding my way into the conservative movement and this crazy career I've had in direct mail fundraising through good old-fashioned postal mail. That my entire career has been quote unquote dying, but all to say it's not. It's actually what's old is new again, and response rates and average gift and all the nerdy metrics we can all get into. Direct mail donors are still the 800-pound gorilla when it comes to grassroots fundraising, and that's giving under $100 at a time. But yeah, computer science to 9/11, and that that shifted my my life in quite a big way. And now I've lived in just outside the swamp in Northern Virginia for 20 years. But it's a wild journey from New York comp sci to New York politics to modern day, and I'm sure we'll get into all things politics and fundraising along our conversation here.
Oh yeah, we definitely will. But just out of curiosity, when you first made that decision to leave computer science and studying for that and going into politics, did you know that the direction we're going to go right away into fundraising side of it, or were you thinking of some other direction?
No, I mean, up until basically graduating with an undergrad, and then I did kind of a 5-year program, got my master's in public policy. Didn't quite know, like I knew I loved the campaign world, really liked kind of the facts and figures and the polling and all that. And now looking back on it, I was like, I wrote for my college newspaper, always, did better in classes that were, history or essay, term paper, all the writing. So when this opportunity came across, my email inbox at the time to interview to be a copywriter, I was like, well, okay, like who do they work with? And it's, a who's who of well-known Republican political campaigns and, conservative movement groups, including Young America's Foundation, which was, as my friends back at Stony Brook would call it, the Ronald Reagan fan club, because they actually own and manage the Western White House out in California.
Wow.
And it's beautiful. Got to go there my senior year of college and ride horseback where Ronald Reagan rode horseback. It was really cool experience. But it was that sort of got a job offer. Didn't really the only kind of direct mail I was familiar with is, what I think most people are familiar with, of those flyers you get right up into, the election with, your guy's great, the opponent's awful, which I have plenty of friends that do that. That's great. What I do is more kind of long form. So 4 to 8 page letter telling a story about whether it's a campaign, the actual candidate, the compare contrast, or what the mission of the organization is, or we work with everybody from the World War II Memorial here in DC, helping them raise funds, to we're obviously in the heat of a midterm election. I know before we clicked on record, we were talking all about that, and especially what's going on in your neck of the woods now in Texas.
Oh,
yeah. I didn't really, long story short, didn't really know what I wanted to do. I just knew I wanted to do something in politics, whether that was work on Capitol Hill, or thankfully found, my calling in the fundraising side, and money in politics is not going away anytime soon.
Yeah.
And at least, for the next, I don't know, 25 to 30 years of my working career, I hope not.
Well, actually, that kind of leads me to a question for you, though. I
Sure.
mean, you spent 20 years, you say, in
Sure.
politics, and politics. And this better than anybody else, I'm sure. Politics is high intensity, high stress.
Sure.
It burns people out fast. It really does. What kept you in it?
I mean, I think the core conviction of the kind of the same thing that happened to me, that the spirit of 9/12, I'd say, like, that we're all in this, as Americans, like, we love our country, we want to promote
Right.
it. So if you told me, back then that the guy hosting The Apprentice would be our president and would be a conservative Republican, I would say you were full of it. But
Yeah, right.
God
Surprise.
works in mysterious ways, and President Trump, both 45 and now 47, has been doing a fantastic job. And just that whole era of again, being from New York, like, and from age 14 to I'm 43 now. I've always had a job, so whether that was being a dishwasher, busboy, on through starting my own company a little over 3 years ago, that whole sort of, again, being in New York, like getting cursed at, yelled at, like, to your face in customer service, in politics, not a lot different. I mean, you haven't lived until you're up on a Sunday morning getting F-bombed by a candidate somewhere, generally from New York, because they like to,
Yeah.
use the F word as a noun, adjective, adverb, whatever. Which, again, being from New York myself, like, the way that Trump speaks, and a lot of the folks on the Christian conservative side, which I am, take his kind of, I was like, yeah, I mean, he can. It is, a different vernacular than what we're used to coming out of the White House. But at the same time, he's the blue collar billionaire for a reason. Like the Joe Sixpack in the middle of nowhere, Ohio. Like,
Right.
that's
true.
how he talks. Like, that's how he relates. And when it, bringing it back to what I do, for my day job, is, I had to unlearn all those things, writing thesis papers and all that. And if you look at a Trump speech and how he, he's been, and being from New York, his name was on everything. He was, on the cover of every newspaper, tabloid, you name it. And he would have his, catchphrases, you're fired, you're hired, from the Apprentice days, to build the wall, lock her up, all the campaign stuff. And that's, if you listen to a Trump speech, the core of it is that marketing. He's going to hit home those rally chant lines that are going to stick in your head. And again, master marketer. He didn't need the fundraising, but he sure did sell a whole lot of red hats.
He sure did. And some blue ones too. I have a blue one sitting over here.
Oh yeah, I've got all the different variety. The black one that Elon made famous of the dark
yeah, that's
MAGA,
right.
and on through. But all to say, love him or hate him, that Trump,
The Trump
persona
brand is just
and the marketing of it, like, again, back to his famous book, The Art of the Deal. Like, if you read some of those stories that we know from growing up in New York of the Woman Rink or any of his developments anywhere, in the country or wherever, the build the wall, get, 2 feet higher or whatever. Like, he would come into a market and say he's going to build the tallest building in wherever, and that would get him free earned media. And same thing, when no one, including myself, was taking him seriously in 2015 into 2016, he was calling into Fox and Friends and every other show on every other network, and they were taking his call because he's good for ratings. And lo and behold, the powers that be didn't take him serious, and he played whack-a-mole with the rest of the Republican field. And again, in typical Trump fashion, like, nicknamed every opponent along the way, and that became the brand of every single one of the, however many dozen plus candidates that were running at the same time there. And
I remember all of that. That it was but to a New Yorker, that's funny.
Yeah. Oh yeah.
Because that's the way we act with people. Everybody. I do the same thing here too. I have little nicknames and pet names for people. I don't tell them most of the time what it is, because the one thing I've learned about folks down here, and especially in this area, is their sense of humor is not quite the same sarcastic sense of humor that a New Yorker has.
Yeah, the ball busting and
and
I'm like, oh yeah, like, it was tailor made for, you'd think it was a SNL skit, but it was real. Like, the Rosie O'Donnell line from the first debate kind of set the tone for the rest of that campaign of, like, this is what you're up against. Like, he's made for these sound bites, and knowing, like, before, the term viral campaign clip was really a thing, like, he was doing it his entire life, marketing his company and his personal brand. And you see it on through to this very day. He's
What I find amazing is how, before he threw his hat into the ring and ran as a Republican, because he also ran before that. He ran as he ran as a libertarian, right? Was it libertarian or independent?
The Independence Party. So it was sort of that, non-established, basically what is MAGA now, that, like, non-establishment populist sort of common sense approach. But I think he realized that like most presidential campaigns, it's next to impossible to run if you're not on either major party line.
Right.
In New York, there's a bunch of minor parties around, but they generally cross endorse in that they're backing either the Republican or Democrat. But I mean, Trump obviously, all those clips from back in the 80s talking to Oprah about would he run for president, and now they all come full circle because he is president. And
that's the point I was getting to, is the fact that he was their darling before he threw his hat into the ring, and then once he did, now it's like he's public enemy number one to them.
Oh yeah, I mean, the Clintons were at his wedding. Chuck Schumer was a guest on The Apprentice talking about how great Donald Trump was. And when he became a Republican and ran for president, then he became, public enemy number one for all of them. And I'm like, yeah, he was a New York real estate guy. So of course he had, that's part of it, is the politics of it, of you have to, contribute and support both sides to get things done. And they being the powers that be in DC tried to do what they could to stop him, but did not work. And I think we're all better because of it, in that he's definitely changed the the failed status quo on politics as usual. But it's crazy to think. That was over 10 years ago, and he's president in the White House, and yeah.
And I don't know how he does it. I mean, he's 80 years old,
Right.
and he barely sleeps.
Right.
And you talk about one of the most stressful jobs in the entire world.
Yeah.
I don't know how he does it and stay so sharp. I mean, honestly though, I mean, I've seen things where, you know, he's not looking so great. He's looking tired, but that's the stress of the job. We know that, plus the age and all that. But still, regardless of that, he is sharp as a tack. He's on the game. He knows what's going on.
Yeah, and I mean, if you know, again, it's maybe recency bias, but if you think of 4 years of Biden in between Trump, it's like, oh well, like Trump is like half his age comparatively. Like he can actually, you know, not only like put together a coherent sentence, but actually like negotiate deals and again do all these, you know, speeches and rallies and barely sleep. I'm like, yeah, I'm almost half his age and have nowhere near that much energy.
Yeah, and I wasn't really planning on going down this route with you, but I figure you got your hand on what's going on politically. Now, obviously, the administration took a kind of a turn. You know, the first 4 or 5 months of everything was going perfect, like rock solid. Everything that we talked about during the campaign was coming through, and let me preface all this too. I am a Trump supporter. I voted for the man 3 times. You know, I believe in what he's doing, and I appreciate the things that he's gotten done. Am I happy with every decision? No, of course not. I mean, and I think that's healthy. We can't walk. You know, we're not Democrats. We don't just toe the company line and just go on through. We actually, in the Republican or conservative movements, we actually discuss things and have an open debate about it. I wish we didn't sometimes. I think sometimes some of these conversations should be behind more closed doors. But this whole thing now with the conflict with Iran, and I don't want to spend too much time on this. This isn't what my show is all about. But there has been a bit of a change in the president since all of this took place. I remember he ran on no more conflicts overseas, Middle East, getting out of all that stuff.
Sure.
No more forever wars, and then this happens. My concern is, of course, I don't know what's going to happen here with the midterms. After when he first took office for his second term, on my show, I was very clear that okay, great, that's behind us. Work on the midterms now. Start now. And it just doesn't. What I'm concerned about is you're having this uprising of the DSA, right? We talked about that before the show. We'll get more into that later, I'm sure. You're seeing, and again, just for clarity, just because somebody wins a primary doesn't necessarily mean they're going to win a general. Right. Okay, I don't think there's that much support for DSA in the general elections. Remember, primaries, not very many people actually go out and vote in primaries. So I'm not too worried about it. I see it. It's on the radar. It's like I got to watch this a little bit, but I'm not panicking. Like a lot of people are that you listen to. But the concern, of course, is that we might, in fact, actually lose in the midterms, lose the House, lose possibly the Senate, and then all of the things that we've been talking about out the window. Because what's going to end up happening? You're going to have another 2 years of impeachments and stalemates and nothing getting accomplished, and all that work and all the stuff that we've been trying to do out the window.
Yeah, I mean, the whole Iran situation, I think, took a lot of us, including myself, by surprise. Of didn't have that on my bingo card, and I doubt many voters could probably locate Iran on a map, but we all know what the Strait of Hormuz is now. But really, ultimately, it's the cost at the pump and the cost of your grocery bill and those things, whether we want to blame Biden inflation, all that. Like, the reality of the situation is costs are still like too high. You're still depending on your car, you're paying $100+ to fill your tank, and that's not great. whether a Republican or a Democrat is in the White House. And that's really the kind of kitchen table pocketbook issues that, Charlie Kirk, God rest his soul, like was advocating for, over these last couple of years before he was murdered almost exactly a year ago on September 10th, because it's that, again, I'm, an elder millennial. So, while I got out and started my career, right before the housing market crashed, but got a job, was able to, buy my first house in my 20s and all that, looking at, the folks now and working with Young America's Foundation and Turning Point and seeing these college kids. I was just at a event for Young America's Foundation at Mount Vernon for their Freedom 250. And yeah, it's definitely part of that conversation of like the no more foreign wars. But it's really the economic impact that's having of, not being able to afford to buy a house. Especially being from Long Island, you had the, Levittown, all those kind of, post World War II, where you could, buy a house as a young couple on a single income. And now that's not achievable for the vast majority of folks. And that's really, right. What I think, again, going, historically back to, even the first Iraq war with George H.W. Bush, like he lost to Bill Clinton. And that was, yes, the first Iraq war was, comparatively over in a blink of an eye, but the no more new taxes and the economy started to go south. And you saw that, like James Carville, who's hilarious. And I definitely love his, railing against the DSA now, but his catchphrase of "it's the economy, stupid," because that's what the vast majority of yes, I'm in the bubble, looking at and consuming the news, whether or not for my day job. So definitely, up on, the latest on just about any sort of geopolitical thing. But ultimately, think about my mom still on Long Island. She's just like, what the hell? Like, why is gas so expensive? Like, what is, going on with Iran? I'm like, I don't know what to tell her. Like, it's okay. Like we can cherry pick, and yes, they're death to America. They've tried to, assassinate Trump or things like that. But how does that impact the, person going to the polls this November? And it's the pricing, and obviously anything Middle East, you're going to think, what's your price at the gas pump? And, that's where I think, again, the historical trends of the party in power in the White House, loses seats. And we saw that during the first Trump admin in the 2018 race where we lost the House. And then that led to, as you were saying, all the impeachments and witch hunts and all that. And so, this new crop that could be coming to Congress, if they do get elected and get power, you're going to get, that on steroids, the impeachments, the gridlock. Although, I mean, again, being in the bubble here, the fight over the Save America Act, like, how do we not get that passed? It's, yes, Trump added some stuff that, we all agree on, but is, is voter ID and no men and women's sports and, the grab bag of the 80-20 issues that the vast majority of people support. But you've got the Lisa Murkowski's. I mean, we'll see if Cornyn how he does, being adopted Texan as you are. But it's this, we have a 53 seat majority in the Senate, but they're gonna drag their feet. They're going to talk about, the filibuster and the need for 60 votes and all that. And, the folks like, your other Senator Ted Cruz or Mike Lee talking about the standing filibuster and all those kind of things that are, it's the rule book. That's how this can get played out. But ultimately, you do need 51 Republicans or 50 plus JD Vance to get on board with that. And I think you have, between the retirements and the primary losses, so you've got Cassidy, Cornyn, Thom Tillis in North Carolina, Murkowski, who caucuses with Republicans, but rarely is there when we need her. You've got a whole host of them that are kind of gumming up the works, to where I think you're seeing Trump sort of get to his wit's end with, Majority Leader Thune and trying to break the logjam there, because the illegals, like, there's always been voter fraud. Like, that's something both sides had agreed on and talked about. Like, back to, I remember in high school the stolen 2000 election.
The hanging chads or whatever they are.
And I'm like,
whatever.
And that was, a Democrat design of the butterfly ballot down in Broward County that cost them that election largely, because Pat Buchanan got a whole lot more votes than I think he was due, because Buchanan comes before Gore in the alphabetized way they had it laid out. But anyhow, like, it's laughable to see Democrats say they're for election integrity and all that, but we saw time and time again, illegals voting, dead people voting has always been something kind of tongue in cheek we've talked about. And I'm skeptical of if we'll be able to actually get voter ID through. Although now in Mamdani's New York City, you have to show ID to go to a government grocery store, but not to vote, apparently.
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, I mean, the hypocrisy is laughable, but I mean, this is what we're up against. And as much as I want to lampoon Mamdani, I was like, he comes across very well, and like Barack Obama, like, he can give a good speech and rally the base and say all the right things at the right time. But his policies are far left, straight up Marxist. And for the love of our home state, I hope that sanity prevails and folks can again, going back to 9/11. If you told me the New York City of Rudy Giuliani would be 25 years later the Muslim Marxist Zoran Mamdani, I understand why the 9/11 families don't want him to be a part of any of the remembrance events in the lead up or on 9/11 this year. And again, it's just wild to think that you had Andrew Cuomo trying to do his best, and Republicans trying to mitigate their loss there and try to support him. And I'm like, yeah, he killed grandma. Like, you forgot he was governor during COVID, and just wild.
But in New York, though, the Republicans shoot themselves in the foot all the time.
Oh yeah,
all the time. Because I remember when the primary season was coming around, and you had the slew of Republican candidates, you had the slew of Democratic candidates. You had Curtis Sleewer running; he was the main guy.
Sure.
I remember that the Republican leadership in New York, I don't know why the name of the thing just popped out of my head, but the Republican leadership in New York, the party leadership, basically told New Yorkers to get out of New York.
Yeah.
I mean, how do you put up a viable candidate if you're not going to get any backing?
I mean, and that's the challenge. I mean, I longtime friend, and I've worked with him through all his campaigns. But Lee Zeldin, he's now.
I like Lee Zeldin. I thought Lee Zeldin would have been a fantastic governor. I
mean, he visited every county at least twice, if not three times, during that campaign, and still came up 6 points short. And largely, the margin was Manhattan. And whether you want to say the kind of the rigged rules post-COVID of the ballot harvesting and all that, the early voting and all that from Manhattan proper was largely what the margin was statewide. Like, the rest of the state is fairly red, but the population in the city is so dense. And again, like, that was 2000 or 2022. Fast forward, that's how you get a Mamdani, is that even the reasonable, moderate Democrat type folks have left for Florida, Tennessee, you name it. Companies moving out post COVID. I mean, I have, again, being from New York, went to college in New York, have plenty of friends that work for companies that are still based in New York, but none of them have to commute into the city anymore. Like post COVID, it's a remote work, like whether that's Jersey or living on Long Island, which has become ruby red again.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
Looking at this election coming up, where you have the Nassau County Supervisor Bruce Blakeman running against Hochul, the kind of accidental governor. I mean, it's again the common sense. Like Blakeman isn't the ultra mega, isn't somebody that you'd see get elected in Alabama, but he's perfect for New York. Like common sense, pro law enforcement, clean up the streets, for tax cuts, like all the the prototypical Republican platform. But again, whether it's that the flight of even back to when I was graduating, the affordability of staying on Long Island versus trying to move elsewhere was an issue 20 plus years ago, and still is. And now with the way taxes have gone, especially at the state level, in Democrat dominated states like New York is, you're seeing even more of that. So, I remember having those conversations in 22 with Lee's team, and it was, like New York can be rescued. There's enough common sense here. Like we're not, and I remember I was at an event with Lee the day that Andrew Cuomo actually announced he was resigning the governorship, and again, being in fundraising, like all our mail was telling Lee's story, his voting record versus Cuomo and the entrenched family legacy dynasty, whatever, and COVID killed grandma kind of stuff, and all the scandals that were coming out at the time, and him getting out of the race, and no one knew who this Hochul person was at the time. And yeah, when she's talking about the 93 Knicks championship team, I was like, 93? I'm like, we didn't even make the finals until 94. Like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
You got the, all those sort of, gaps.
That's all pandering. That's just all
pandering.
I
mean, and it's, whether it's Hakeem Jeffries or Mamdani or whatever, all going to, jumping on the Knicks bandwagon. I'm like, come on. Like actually today, as we're recording, I'm like, I know this because it popped up in my Facebook timeline, but my all-time favorite Nick, and it's actually my profile picture to segue over to cigars because he's a big cigar guy. But John Starks, number 3, infamous for the dunk over Jordan in the playoffs there. That was that team that she was trying to pander and talk about. And I'm like, yeah, I still remember, this is probably 2 or 3 years ago. I was with my business partner in Midtown, killing some time before we had a dinner. So we stopped again, being a cigar guy and a whiskey bourbon guy. Stopped at a cigar bar and talking to my buddy Joel, who we've built this company together over these last 3 years, and probably like 20, 25 feet away, like in a smoke-filled room, I'm like, that's John Starks just walked in. And I'm like, I ultimately magically became a 10-year-old boy.
Fanboy.
Completely disregarded, my best friend and business partner, and made a beeline to Mr. Starks and got a picture, and totally probably freaked him out because I'm, 6'1", 300 pounds. I'm a big dude. I was like, hey, I remember watching that game when you dunked over Horace Grant and Michael Jordan. And I actually still have, it's more recent purchase because I had the original back in the day, but have that poster now, in my man cave at home of the dunk. And it's that sort of, again, the nostalgia for back then of the, we were talking about the Giuliani in New York City of, he wasn't the most conservative, but he was common sense, tough on crime, the broken windows theory, like all that kind of stuff.
I remember all of that. Yeah.
You saw from, his time as mayor to Bloomberg, even like keeping a lot of those policies in place. And it wasn't really until de Blasio that you started to see the left like with the defund the police and all that garbage, start to take hold. But even Eric Adams, like, again, not great, but comparatively, like as a, former cop, like he wasn't a defund the police radical.
Exactly right.
But, he got forced out of his own, as an incumbent mayor, to where, he didn't even, put up, much of a fight there.
Where even is he now?
No idea. Probably consulting for some company, I would imagine, as lots of ex-politicians do. But to think that Republicans were starting to warm up to him in the lead up there, and then Andrew Cuomo too. Of wait, you're telling me that like the guy that we were trying to unseat these last 3 terms as governor and then resigned in disgrace, like we're all supposed to line up behind him now? Yeah. And that's how you get, someone who's not really that serious of a Curtis Lewa, who again, not like, again, he's law and order, but not conservative, certainly hates Trump for decades. Not a MAGA candidate as much as the left would want to paint him as, but I think he didn't even get double digits in that election. Like Cuomo,
no, he didn't.
Came in a closer second, but Mamdani still got the majority of the votes in the city, which is still wild to think about.
Yeah, exactly. And, and that's the problem. And just back to your point about New York City versus New York State, I say this all the time, is that, New York City and New York State are 2 different worlds altogether. Mm-hmm. New York, upstate New York, downstate New York, they think different, they speak different, they vote different, they have different values, different systems of life. Mm-hmm. The problem is the density of the population. You have 8 million people in New York City alone.
Yeah, and I think you look at the national scene on the left now, and you've got whether it's Hakeem Jeffries, Schumer, AOC, Mamdani's influence with the DSA and all these primaries, not just in New York City, but whether it's he won the primary, so I'm going to say he was the Democrat nominee in Maine, Graham Plattner with the Nazi tattoo, and Al Sayed in Michigan. But again, like if the evolution of our politics and the whole like never forget 9/11, like the lessons of that, of getting caught to where Osama bin Laden, Al Qaeda, like who none of us knew who those people were and what they were until that happened. And now we all, remember, at least, on our side we do. And, it's sad to see sort of the anti-Americanness coming out from the left that's, in charge of the Democrat Party. We can, again, like you were mentioning earlier, debate the finer points of tax policy or, the geopolitical, whether we're smart or not to get into war with Iran and how that's going to resolve itself. But, there's no doubt that Donald Trump loves our country and wants to do what's right and thinks that was right, even though we can debate it. Mm-hmm. And, that's the one maddening thing is, our side obviously we're all very strong-minded, not voting in lockstep like Nancy Pelosi would, jam through Obamacare or whatever. Sort of, envious on the other side of like, why can't we get the SAVE Act passed? We have the votes, like it's passed the House, which should be the harder vote, like the narrower majority.
It also raises the question as to why wouldn't you vote for something that would take a step to better improve the security of our elections? Because I'm not going to say it's going to solve the problem.
Sure, of course.
I'm not naive enough to think that.
Of course.
Things are going to happen.
Right.
But at least it's a step in the right direction. And it's overwhelmingly wanted by the electorate.
Yeah. I mean, it's common sense. And again, if Trump said the sky, was a different color, everyone would, on the left would immediately be like, oh no, I mean, he in the State of the Union where he baited them to not stand for putting Americans first.
Yeah.
And I'm like, to his point, like he could cure cancer and then the left would be pro cancer. It would be, it just, but, and I even think back to, election night 2016, I was out on Long Island with Lee Zeldin and his team. We were pretty confident in, the polling for Lee. He was polling double digits and he won by almost 20 points that night. But we were all, sort of convinced that, oh, well, again, being in New York, like Hillary's going to win. And me being a fundraiser, I'm like, oh, President Hillary, this is going to be the gift that keeps giving as far as the enemy goes. Like she's been the enemy of the Republican apparatus and fundraising machine for, almost my entire life, like since, coming on the national scene in the 90s. And watching that night, every other TV was on Fox News and the other ones were on News 12 Long Island. So you were seeing the local stuff and the national. And the company I worked for at the time, we had folks all over the country working, on various races. And you're hearing like, oh, Pennsylvania's looking good. Ohio's looking good. Florida, now not such a swing state, but Florida at the time looking good. Then you got the, Michigan, Wisconsin, like, oh, crap, like Trump's actually going to win this thing. And seeing just the, now it's all the funny memes of, the crazy lefties, screaming, no.
Yeah.
But I'm like, yeah, they all thought it was impossible. And as did I, because again, drinking the Kool-Aid of, well, okay, like there's no way Trump's going to win now. Like it's teed up for Hillary. And I'm like, yeah, it was teed up for Hillary in 2008. And then a guy who is a state senator a couple years before with a name like Barack Hussein Obama came out of nowhere and beat her in the primary. And, again, for what I do in grassroots fundraising, that's, his team revolutionized that whole, donate $2 and, win a lunch with, at the time, Senator Obama.
Yeah.
And, building that grassroots momentum, obviously, took down the Clinton machine back then. And then the Trump grassroots machine took down the Clinton machine in 2016.
Now that you mentioned the fundraising, and I know that's part of the reason why I wanted you to come on the show too.
Sure.
And so let me ask you this: what do you think political campaigns fundamentally misunderstand about donor psychology?
I mean, it's I think taking them for granted of it's really that relationship, right? Like back to the Obama example of that $2 donor is also a voter, is someone who's not only gonna, like, they've given you money and with contribution limits the way they are, can continue to give you money up until the limits. But if you're giving $2, there's plenty of room between that and the 3,500 that's the current limit. Whereas the Clinton machine was getting all the max out folks. But anyway, like the missing component is that I think the rapport with those donors of like, it's not just an ATM machine of like, you can't just keep asking for more money and more money and more money without actually delivering. So I think you're seeing a lot, now, whether it's, the frustration over not getting the SAVE Act passed, incumbents are having a harder time raising funds because it's sort of like, okay, like what have you done for me lately? Like, this is an issue I care about. Like, you can give speeches, great, but like, you're not actually, Trump can out, and we can, debate the finer points of executive power and the executive orders, Trump, has enacted that can be erased by the next president, as we saw, in the Biden auto pen era. But it's really that developing that relationship. So Trump, despite everything, has a rock solid, rapport with his fan base and his voting base. So that's the kind of apathy that we see when Trump's not on the ballot of, the folks that are low propensity voters, but came out because they really supported Donald Trump. those are the folks that, those swing state or swing district Republicans running for House and Senate need to get out to vote for us to have any chance of holding on to, the House and certainly, the Senate. The map on the Senate side is more favorable, but, never say never, because, generally midterm elections are waves. So, likely we're going to lose ground in the House and hopefully we can at least hold on to the Senate. But then you have the,
we don't have much play though in the House. I mean, we only have what, a 2 or 3 seat majority
on any given day. Yeah. It's a handful of votes. And, that's part of it. I don't envy Speaker Johnson. Herding cats is one thing. Like, it's even worse when you don't have, a 20 or 30 seat buffer where you can give some, embattled folks a pass on not having to come out and vote for this. And that's where you saw I'm probably not the biggest Tom Massey fan, although I do, like his principled stand sometimes. Agreed. But again, I think he got, a little bit of his own ego of, it's going to be more about him and his, future aspirations than actually enacting legislation. When ultimately you're elected to get the job done, and now you're just trying to make a name for yourself. Yeah. And so that's the kind of disappointing thing is, yes, we've got our infighting still on both sides. I mean, the Democrats have the DSA crazy, so I'll take our side, and we can have our libertarian versus paleoconservative versus neocon debates all day long, and I'd vote for any of the above over any of what the left has. But that's part of it, and that keeps me engaged. And yes, we raise money for all sorts of veteran charities and patriotic, museums and causes too. So that's humbling to help too. But, now we're in the election year. So it's, all the news cycle is hot and heavy with primary still going on. We've got Florida coming up pretty soon. Although Florida now is, I think, comfortably, it's a red state, which is nice. And plenty of our fellow New Yorkers have retired there,
and they're enjoying their freedom.
Yeah, I mean it's part of the problem of the leave your politics back in the blue state, whether it's California or New York, and don't California my Texas, and don't New York my Florida. And yeah, it's the Freedom Peninsula. I could do without the hurricanes, but outside of that, there's a reason there's snowbirds exist. It is quite nice there.
I have friends back in New York that ask me all the time, so are you going to move back to New York? Are you out of your freaking mind?
Winters and taxes.
Well, I will concede this. Okay. When I got here, I was like, I am not going to miss the snow and having to shovel and have to fight the snow plows, because people outside of New York don't understand. You got to go to work in the morning. There's snow all over the place. You shovel your car out. You turn around. The plow comes, puts all that snow right back into your driveway again.
Although if you live in Northern Virginia, everything closes if there's a threat of frost. When there's actual, I remember when I first moved down here, I was like, I'm getting in my car, ready to go to work. And, get the call of no, we follow the government and the government's closed. I was like, I mean, I guess it's, less than an inch, but, again, it's used to, New York travel and weather, but
yes. Well, I live in a place where it hasn't snowed more than once in the last 35 years. When I moved here, moving in, it was 113 degrees.
Whew.
We were moving in here.
Air conditioning is a wonderful thing.
It's an incredible thing. It really is. I never really appreciated it until I got here. But what I was going to say was, I never thought in a million years, after dealing with all the heat, that I would ever say, I kind of miss the winter.
Fair enough. Yeah. Here in the swamp, we get snow occasionally, not nearly what we'd get in New York, but we get the worst of both, the snow that just paralyzes everything because they don't know what to do with it.
Yep.
and the swampy 100+ degree humid weather. So I'm like, it's still, home for now. We'll see. I mean, we've got our own crazy, Democrat governor in Spanberger who campaigned as a moderate and then, from day one enacted or, attempted to enact all these taxes, gun grab, like your host of far left policies. So Virginia is unique in that there's the rule where you can't have consecutive gubernatorial terms. So it's one and done basically. Yeah. So we just got to survive, 3 more years of Spanberger. And hopefully we can get, a Republican like a Youngkin or somebody, at least, sensible, reduce taxes, lessen regulations.
I hope so, man. I hope so. Because, Virginia to me is kind of like what they say about Texas, how Texas goes, so goes the country. It's the same thing with Virginia in a lot of ways too. Virginia politics is incredibly important.
Yeah. I mean, Texas. If we lose Texas, I don't know how a Republican can win the presidency. And so that before we started recording, talking about the Senate race there, and I'm like, if somehow that crazy Tallarico gets in, all hope is lost. Like that, there's no way, the come and take it Texas, guns and brisket voter, who again, apolitical, is going to vote for a vegan, pro-trans, God's non-binary radical. But crazier things have happened.
Very true. Very true. Well, you know what they say. If it does happen, if at first you don't secede, try again.
There you go. Texas does have its own power grid, so it is possible.
It does. Listen, if Texas left and you probably know this from your research, but if Texas ever left the union, Texas automatically becomes the 8th largest economy in the world.
Yeah.
The world.
Yeah.
So it's not impossible. I'm actually part of an organization called the Texas Nationalist Movement. So
there you go. Well, hopefully not Texas. Maybe California. If Newsom wants to be president of something, he can be California.
Yeah, there you go. There you go. Now, hey, Jeff, we're going to go over the hour. Are you okay with that for a little bit?
Yeah.
I know the time difference.
Sure.
So, all right, cool. Because I want to ask you about the Patriot Economy.
Sure.
All right. I saw that in your profile. You mentioned it when we were talking off the show. So what exactly is the Patriot Economy?
Sure. I mean, I think you look at sort of the rise of all these kind of woke brands or during the COVID time of the as Dan Bongino, or again, another New Yorker, says BLM stands for Build Large Mansions.
Did you know, to interrupt you really quick,
yeah.
Did you know that one of the reasons why I started this podcast was because of Bongino?
Oh, really? I did not know that.
Yeah.
Dan's great. I mean, I've worked on his past campaigns, fundraising for his runs for Congress in Maryland and then Florida. But he's great. And talk about Patriot Economy. I mean, the companies that support his show. So you're thinking of Helix mattresses that are run by kind of Christian conservative guys, or Blackout Coffee.
Which is great coffee, by the way.
I've
if
got
anybody
my
from Blackouts,
Army,
if anybody from Blackouts checking out the show or anything like that,
So really,
sponsor.
and he was one of the ones that I know in your nameplate there. You've got your Rumble channel. I mean, he's obviously huge on Rumble, and
I'm a shareholder,
co-founder, show here, of that. But it's sort of the go out and build your own parallel economy, Patriot Economy. Of whether we were talking earlier about America First whiskey, which I originally bought just as a I like whiskey and I like America, so I'm going to support a conservative brand, and it happens to be some darn good whiskey. But think of in Texas, you've got Patriot Mobile there in Grapevine, or Old Glory Bank that's co-owned by John Rich. And they built that after kind of conservatives were getting debanked, and obviously the most notable of which is President Trump getting debanked in his 4-year wilderness between terms. And you're seeing those sort of brands really have that kind of following of that same kind of MAGA conservative donor is also that conviction driven buyer, so they'll pay a little bit more for Blackout Coffee, or I joke, I'm like, yes, I've got my Blackout Coffee, I sleep on my Helix mattress with my pillow, and if they're advertising on Fox News, Newsmax, OAN, you name it, like those are the sort of brands we're talking about that are faith forward or values forward. Glenn and the team at Patriot Mobile talk about, they're the only, Christian conservative cell phone provider in the country. And yeah, people are the proof is in the marketplace of, yes, Blackout Coffee, is a relatively new entrant. But even here locally, there's 7 Weeks Coffee. My buddy Anton started that a handful of years ago as the only pro-life coffee brand, because he's entrepreneurial, saw a hole in the marketplace, liked coffee, and kind of figured it out, and developed this kind of following in the kind of Patriot Economy subscription based coffee delivery. But yeah, those sort of brands. So if generally now, if they've got an American flag or say anything even remotely patriotic, those are the sort of companies we're talking about. But helping promote them and connect those conviction driven donors that are also consumers to those brands, because ultimately what I'm able to do through the good old fashioned physical postal mail is kind of break through that the social media censorship of big tech, whether Rumble didn't exist until conservatives were getting kicked off and booted from YouTube.
That's right.
And now, Rumble is kind of the free speech haven. And, Dan Bongino will say, like, if you're a leftist, like, come on, like, we're not going to censor you. Come and try out the free marketplace of your ideas. And unlike, and I don't know if your show is also on YouTube, but we'll probably get, suppressed or throttled.
Let me tell you something about YouTube. So yes, the show is on YouTube. Okay, I do not have a big following on YouTube at all. I don't really promote the YouTube channel. I promote the Rumble channel.
Sure.
And so I have more followers on Rumble than I do on YouTube. I have strikes on YouTube that I refuse to go through their sensitivity training.
Sure.
I'm not doing it, because I stand by what I talked about, and it's nothing horrible. It really isn't. And on Rumble, I have no problems whatsoever. I never have an issue.
Yeah.
And as far as the content goes, and on the rarity that there's a technical issue, what I love about Rumble is the fact that you email tech support, you get a response very, very quick, and it's not an automated "thanks for your submission" thing. Mm-hmm. It's an actual person responding to you, and they really work really hard to get the problems resolved for you.
Yeah, and that's the same thing, knowing the folks at Patriot Mobile and Old Glory Bank too. Both, like, if you call, like, you're not going to get a AI answer. You're going to get a American based call center with real live people that are committed to actually providing that the customer service that we all used to think of pre outsourcing everything to India call centers.
Yep. It's funny you mentioned Patriot Mobile, because I looked at Patriot Mobile, and once I'm finished with my current provider, I'm seriously considering making that move.
Yeah, they're great people over there, yeah, for sure.
So yeah, I mean, I whatever it is, I'm so tired of this big tech, not really your best interest at heart, type of service. Like, I'm not going to, it doesn't matter who my cell phone service provider is, but
sure.
but they're one of the biggest privacy breaching groups out there.
100%.
I get every so often. I mean, and when I say so often, I don't mean like spaced out. I'm saying like every so often, I get a letter from them saying, "Hey, your information has been breached," and all of a sudden, I get all these text messages and spam messages and all that stuff, and it's like, why? What am I paying for?
Right.
You know
yeah.
what I mean? So it's just one of those things. But the Patriot Economy, I support it. I have a few things. Like I said, Blackout Coffee is one of the best coffees I've ever had. I have a subscription to Blackout Coffee. I still get my little cups and whatnot. But I will say this: you need to get the beans, though. You got to grind your own beans. To me, that's the best. I used Blackout Coffee beans, and I have another brand that I use of Italian coffee, because I love my Italian. I'm Italian, so I get Italian coffee. So I get my espresso. So but you have to support these organizations because they are legitimately working on the best interests of American citizens.
Right. I mean, and that's all part of the, putting America first and the Made in America. Again, the marketing of it, of like, is it actually made in America, or is it assembled in America, or is it
very important?
Like all those like little nuances. And I'm like, the marketer in me is like, that's genius of how they twisted it just slightly enough. So like, to everybody else is like,
look at your Apple products. Products, assembled in America. Right.
And that's the thing of like these generally, veteran owned. Thinking of even he's a former client of mine, but was on Shark Tank. Now he's a member of Congress from Arizona. But Eli Crane with his bottle breacher, company where he's taking the 50 cal shell casings and making them, bottle openers. So Bottle Breacher was his company. And that was the whole thing, was like, he got back after, I want to say 3 tours with the SEALs, 2 in the Naval Fleet. But, wanted to, start a company and give back, to his local area where he grew up in Arizona, hire other veterans, and, built a company, and, got that, golden ticket, to get on Shark Tank, and got a deal with Mark Cuban and Kevin O'Leary, and built a company and ultimately sold it while he was, then ran for office. And he's one of the good guys on Capitol Hill doing it for the right reasons. But it's that sort of entrepreneurial spirit, whether it's, again, a novelty item like a bottle breacher, of which I've got several, with different sayings on them. And then, coffee, cell phone service, like you name it. There's certainly a, America made, veteran owned company out there doing it or providing the service. So that's where we're also trying to help now, is help these brands kind of build their national, what we would say in politics, your name ID. So, Blackout Coffee, has Dan Bongino, but no one knew who Dan Bongino was, 15 years ago when he was running for Senate in Maryland. And, again, he, ran a couple of times and, found his calling in this whole, podcast world. And now is, part of the reason we're here today on Rumble is because of him and other folks like him. Obviously, Rush Limbaugh is the GOAT when it comes to, talk radio, conservative speech. But, Dan is right there, on a Mount Rushmore of conservative speakers.
I would agree with you. Like I said before, one of my inspirations for doing this podcast was Dan Bongino, because when I started doing this podcast, it was political.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
That's all I talked about. It was just politics. I didn't do guests, very rare. This thing kind of morphed into what it's become on its own.
Sure.
But yeah, that was my inspiration or my motivation for doing this. I was like, I want to get involved in this. I want to lend my voice to the whole thing. So huge inspiration. Now, about the Patriot Economy. Now, I don't know how I can phrase this question. Are conservative consumers really changing where they spend their money, or is it mostly like social media talk and things like that?
I mean, yes, ultimately, when you're seeing, the, Bud Light and Coke and these, massive multi-billion-dollar name brands out there kind of going woke. I mean, Bud Light is the most notorious for doing the whole Dylan Mulvaney, like, direct marketing 101, know your audience. And a transgender activist is not, the Bud Light drinker.
And unlikable.
They paid a price and created a hole in that marketplace that, have been a handful of brands trying to fill. So, I mean, it is definitely a David versus Goliath kind of thing. I mean, YouTube and Rumble, Rumble has grown by leaps and bounds the last, half dozen years. But YouTube is still, owned by Google, and everyone knows it. And, I have a 14-year-old son who thinks he's going to have a, career as a YouTuber, which wasn't a thing for those of us growing up. But like today it could be, for sure. I mean, there are no shortage of YouTube millionaires, and some of the content that's out there is just stupid, but it's
garbage.
It's a whole nother kind of industry marketplace. But I'm trying to ingrain in him that, again, the marketing, the creativity of if you're going to put out content, whether that's gaming, which is what he's into, or for me and what I do of going on shows like yours and talking about my story and what I do and who I serve. It's now more people are using AI to search instead of Googling it. So the whole AEO instead of SEO is the latest kind of debate of getting your name and content out there.
Yes, my chat GPT model told me that today.
Exactly. And that's the I'm more of a Claude guy, but yes, I'm sure they both say the same thing of get out there and do all the things to help their algorithms. But it's the same thing. Like, you're marketing yourself and your material. Like, if it's not catchy and not worthwhile, then you're not going to go anywhere. And the more creative you can be, like, video editing, is certainly an in-demand skill across all sorts of industries. And creative, again, like, I had no clue what I thought I was going to do one thing as a 18-year-old, college student, and did not, God had a different plan. And here I am talking to you about Republican politics, fundraising, and the Patriot Economy, when I thought I would be talking to you about Microsoft and working for Bill Gates.
Yeah. So just another question about about Patriot Economy or parallel economies.
Sure.
So if we are realistically building parallel economies around values, right? Because that's basically what a lot of these Patriot Economy shops are. They're building around their core values. Doesn't that eventually make everything political?
I mean, I think it makes it more transparent now. Like, those companies, I always use the example, even though, again, Knicks fan and 90s Knicks, Michael Jordan was kind of our kryptonite. But he had that kind of tongue-in-cheek line of Republicans buy sneakers too, where he notoriously, maybe if Twitter and social media existed back then, maybe things are different. But, he was, not weighing into political things. And I couldn't tell you what, the brand, my cell phone provider, what their politics were, a handful of years ago. But now, all those big, companies went woke by and large. I mean, there's a few that held the line.
Yep.
But, I think, whether it's lobbying on Capitol Hill or, Mark Zuckerberg pouring over $400 million into electioneering for Joe Biden in 2020, those companies, whether Facebook, Meta, or Google, YouTube, are the Silicon Valley liberal elites now that want to censor and suppress conservative speech, just like back in the day when you only had 3 channels and the powers that be, and that's where the whole kind of fairness doctrine was an issue back then.
Yeah,
of
I remember that.
The gatekeeping, and that's ultimately, whether it's the parallel economy, Patriot Economy, for free speech, for folks that want to stick it to, these liberal companies and like not buy Heinz ketchup and, go with the, Hunt's brand or whatever, because, again, showing my age of the, John Kerry and Teresa Heinz, of the like, I'm like, these like, yes, they weighed, a lot of them, the leadership may be more woke and, getting them into trouble, but like, ultimately it's, people vote with their pocketbooks too. So if you can support, local businesses, great. Like, and that's the kind of made in America, like supporting your, mom and pop hardware store over Home Depot. But, Home Depot does have cheaper prices and happens to be founded by some, good patriotic conservatives.
I wish there was a Home Depot near me. There isn't.
Yeah.
the nearest one's like an hour or something away.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Well,
it's a tough one.
Texas is supposed to have all the things, but it is a ginormous state.
It is quite big. I didn't realize just how big it was until I tried to drive through it. It took when I got here. We drove coming in, and it was from the time I entered Texas to get to where I live now. It was over 12 hours just to get from one end of Texas to the top end of Texas to the bottom. That's not even going across.
Yeah, I mean, like from where I live now, like I can get to DC, Maryland, Delaware, West Virginia, all in under an hour. And again, being from the area of New York we're from, like you could take a ferry over to Connecticut. You can get to Jersey pretty quick. Like yes, there is New York's a giant state too, and anything north of the city is basically Canada.
True.
But yeah, same thing. End to end, I'm sure, New York, like when Lee was doing it, there were definitely times where, he's taking flights and helicopters sometimes, to get, to be efficient, because New York is a big state.
It is. It's always made me laugh because I used to love to go to upstate New York, and I remember I took a trip up to Niagara, and I went twice. Okay, the first time I went through New York and all the way up. Took me forever. The fastest way to get to upstate New York, to Niagara at least, was to leave New York, go into Pennsylvania, and then up Pennsylvania back into New York. It was the fastest way to do it, which is insane. When you got to leave the state, go through two other states to come back into the state to get someplace faster than going through the state. It's amazing. It really is. So one last serious question before I hit you with something that you're probably not going to expect.
Okay.
Trends. What trends are you seeing going into the 2026 election cycle that most people don't see?
That most people don't see. I think, there is definitely still, whether you want to call it the Tea Party or the MAGA movement now, still is alive and strong. And I think you saw that with some of these primary results. But like, I think you are seeing that kind of next generation of, now we know that, Trump, even though he jokes that he's going to run in 2028, we all know that this is his closing act here of what that next generation is, and there is still that enthusiasm, whether it's the Turning Point crowd or JD Vance and Marco Rubio as the kind of next team up, or DeSantis, Cruz, like the future is bright, and it's not the kind of DC establishment wing that has grown over these last 10 years. I think Trump has definitely brought a lot more folks into politics that normally would be disengaged and not running for office and not thinking in those ways. So that's been a net positive of getting folks like in Texas, you've got Brandon Gill, who does look like Superman. He has that Clark Kent thing about him. But, he's that kind of next generation of smart, excellent debater, able to kind of engage and ask those kind of questions and really, as Bongino would say, like, makes the left show their asses of the show their ass theory of like, okay, I'm going to ask you a bunch of like common sense questions, and then you're going to like stumble of the like, okay, like explain like how abortion isn't murder, or how voter ID is somehow racist. Like all these kind of radical positions, but he does it in like a kind of lighthearted is not the right term, but like in a way that, like, again, for our social media viral economy, like you can get those 30-second clips of him asking questions, and then getting that clip of like, oh, you sound like a moron, like, because you refuse to say like a boy is a boy and a girl is a girl, or something equally common sense to everybody else that's watching it, but like you're trying to thread the needle, trying to get in the mind of a leftist of trying to like toe the line and say things you have to know are just crazy town, like what's her face, Ketanji Brown. She knows what a boy is and a girl is, like the whole her viral line of she's not a biologist. I'm like, yeah, that was your way to kind of reason reason your way to appease the leftists, of which you are, but like, come on, like we all know what's going on here. But
you're
all
right.
to say, yes, there is a lot of enthusiasm for the kind of post-Trump MAGA movement. I think like a lot of folks are thinking that like once Trump's gone, it's going to be over, and I think he's awoken a whole nother generation of folks that are getting in the fight.
I think you're right. And I like Brandon Gill. I think he has a very, very bright future ahead of him, politically speaking. There's a lot of great talent. The bench is kind of deep compared to what the Democrats have. So
Yeah.
which is a good thing.
Exactly. Yep.
All right. This is it. This is one of probably the most important questions I'm going to ask you all night long.
Okay.
All right. A Packers fan in Virginia.
Yeah. I mean, the New Jersey Jets and Giants weren't cutting it for me growing up, and that Brett Favre guy and the 90s Green Bay Packers sort of got a young Jeff K hooked with the kind of fan zone small market team, and the connection with the Jets is maybe funny or ironic, with Favre and Rodgers going to play for the Jets. So I've seen them. Well, I guess no. I went to go. The only game I saw Favre play was when he played for the Jets.
Okay.
But it was that kind of the resurgence of Titletown and the cheeseheads, and we're everywhere. So I am a Packers shareholder, which is a fan club, but the fans own the team.
I know.
And the Jets and Giants circa, early to mid 90s were not so great. I mean, the Jets were never great in my lifetime.
Well, I understand that, and I agree with you. And okay, let me do this then. Let me go this route first. So there is. I understand the Packers. I do, and I'm going to tell you why. Because I too follow the Packers. Okay, I follow the Packers not necessarily because I'm a fan, but because it's an obligation to. Okay. And the obligation is that Vincent Lombardi is a cousin of mine.
Oh, wow. Okay. Yeah. New York Paisan.
Yes. Yes. So there's actually a picture that I think my sister has it now. Okay. Of Vincent Lombardi holding me when I was an infant.
Oh, man.
Yes.
That's
like
awesome.
He'll held me like a football, but
Sure.
Of course. But yeah, no, he's a cousin of mine, and so by default you have to be a Packers fan. You have to follow the Packers.
Yeah,
but,
I mean he should have been the Giants coach, and they passed him over, and
that's right.
Giants loss was Green Bay's gain.
That's right. He's the only football head coach that ever had a Broadway show written about him.
Yeah, I remember going to see that with the dad from Wonder Years portraying Vince Lombardi.
Yes, actually, yeah. They actually, my grandmother was his first cousin.
Okay.
So my grandmother was invited personally to come to the show, and
Oh wow.
she was in her 80s at the time, so she, but she went to the show, and we had all these pictures of her with the cast and the crew and
Oh, that's
all the
awesome.
backstage stuff, and it was a blessing. It was great. It was really great.
Yeah. It was. I mean, again, not a big Broadway guy, but you make a Broadway show about Vince Lombardi, I'll go see it.
There you go.
It was well done, and yeah, the all the ads that blanking on the actor's name that everyone knows as the dad from Wonder Years.
Yeah, I can't remember his name either, but
who
I know he
portrayed Vince Lombardi. Like he
Yeah.
cut a bunch of ads at the time for the NFL as Vince Lombardi, so
That's right.
it was
Yeah.
perfect, and it was a great show. So yeah, great to meet a fellow Packers fan. Although it's in the family for you, but
Yeah, it's more of an obligation, really, but because my team is I'm a Jets fan.
sure.
But see, that goes in line with all the other teams that I follow, because none of the teams that I follow are really winning teams, and I justify that, and I said, look, you can't win all the time, and losing builds character. So I am overflowing with character because of the teams that I follow. Like my dad was a Yankees fan, my dad was a Giants fan, my dad was a Knicks fan, my dad was an Islanders fan. I was a Mets fan, a Jets fan, a Rangers fan, so everything that my dad did, I did the opposite.
Okay. I mean, the one that I think you've got flipped usually is the Islanders go with the Jets and Mets.
Well, I don't know. The Rangers they've had a tough run.
Yeah.
They had a couple of good seasons, but they've had a tough
I mean,
run.
again, all my not like is back to the '90s, like when they won the Stanley Cup in '94, and the Knicks should have won the finals, and that would have been.
But
awesome.
you look at the Rangers as a total. The Rangers were part of the original NHL.
Oh, yeah.
They were the original 5 teams. So from the 1920s when it started up until recently, the Islanders are only around since the 70s.
Yeah,
And
I mean, they had a good run in the '80s or the late '70s into the early '80s.
Right, and they have more Stanley Cup wins than the Islanders do. So the
right.
Rangers do. So it's that's when I say like that.
Yeah.
But all right, wrap up questions. You ready?
Sure.
We're going to do this rapid style. All right.
Okay.
Cigars. Your go-to cigar.
Currently, I'd say the Plancia. I can't even speak, but Plancia Sixto. Those are quite yummy.
Yeah. I've had. Yeah, that's a good one. My go-to has always been H. Upmann brands cigars. I love they're like, if you have an everyday cigar, it would be H. Upmann.
Yeah, but, I mean, if I go bougie, I'd go like an Ashton or something like that.
Yeah.
But I mean the which I can't even say it correctly right now. It's a little late, but the Plancia line, the Sixto especially is my go-to.
Okay. Have you ever had the Avo Heritage?
I don't think so. Now
Try it. You'll like
Okay.
it. It's
Okay.
really it's a beautiful it's a medium full bodied cigar.
Okay.
Pairs really well with Elijah Craig. Single barrel Elijah Craig.
Nice. Okay.
Very, 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 very nice pairing right there. Another one that pairs really well with an Elijah Craig is the Camacho Triple Maduro.
Ooh. Okay. Yeah.
All right, that pairs well with the toasted barrel Elijah Craig. You want to talk about an experience?
Mm-hmm.
My God, what an experience! I'm telling you. And I know we're kind of talking about cigars and bourbons and stuff like that. In you're a Christian. I'm a born again Christian myself.
Sure.
Usually, when you talk about these things in front of our crowd, you get the raised eyebrow.
Sure. Although I'd say Charles Spurgeon was a
Avid cigar smoker.
avid cigar smoker. So it's a thing. And when I've gone to different Christian conferences or the national religious broadcasters, there is a group of us that'll find the nearest cigar bar and partake And yeah, I mean, I always joke. I grew up Catholic, so I'm like, well, Jesus turned water to wine. Like, it's kind of a thing.
Right. Yeah, and of course, Paul told Timothy, "Take a little wine for thy stomach's sake, and had often infirmities."
Exactly. So yeah, I mean having a good glass of bourbon or whiskey paired with a cigar, like you were saying, is a great night. And certainly working in Republican politics, the Scotch and cigar night is a go-to. And I'm a part of several of those kind of DC Republican cigar clubs. And although there's in DC proper, there's not too many places that you can actually smoke indoors, especially. But here in Virginia, there's a good amount of the old school kind of tobacco world, and no shortage of great local brands and cigar shops and lounges in this area.
Eagle Pass needs a cigar bar.
There you go.
Just gave me an idea.
There you go.
I'm going to work on that. All right, Jeff, thank you, man. This was great. Didn't really get to a couple of things I wanted to hit on, but I'm sure I can entice you to come back on at some point.
Yeah, this has been great. I mean, we've gone on, to overtime here, and it's been great. Catching up and talking politics and Vince Lombardi of all things. Did not expect that, but there is that New York Italian connection there, so that's awesome.
There it is.
But, definitely enjoyed it. Definitely we'll come back at some point. Hopefully not too long.
Yeah, I hope so. So before we wrap up, who's someone that you respect right now, and what are they doing that inspires you, or what have they done that inspires you?
Wow. Somebody right now that's doing something. I would say, you look at a lot of these, whether it's it's front of mind, but like a Dan Bongino who, got into, was a New York cop, then, Secret Service, then, felt the calling to get into politics, run for office, was unsuccessful, came close the second time around, and, found a second or third career in, conservative media, got called back into service for a year into the FBI and is back. But talk about someone who is the same person when the camera's on and when the camera's off, like having, worked on his races back, when he was, just a former Secret Service agent running for office. The same kind of stories he would, and the same way he's on camera is exactly how he's off. So seeing, what he's been able to build, I'd say, Dan has been an inspiration for a whole nother generation of folks now on his channel and Silverlock Media. And the, he tends to, get a bunch of New York, Long Island folks like Haley Carnia and now Sean Farish that are all, New York exiles on his channel. But seeing what he's built, definitely respected and am avid listener.
Amen. All right, brother. Same here. All right. Well, Jeff, I'm going to put you backstage. I'm going to wrap this thing up. I'll touch base with you really quick. I'm going to wrap it up fast. All right. Jeff K. Check him out. JMK Victory. Check it out. Great stuff. Thank you, Jeff. Appreciate you.
Awesome. Thank you.
All right, folks. That was a great conversation. I really enjoyed that. That was fantastic. We have a tendency of getting lost in the weeds on a lot of things, but this was one of those conversations that you learned a few things out of it too. I mean, we joked around a little bit, we talked some stuff, but there was a lot of really, really important information that he passed on to us. So I hope you guys are paying attention to it. Great stuff. All right, let's wrap this up here really quickly, given the hour. Website, don't forget, head over to our website, joerooz.com. That's joerooz.com. When you get there, look for the contact form. It's hidden up there in the little pancake in the right corner. Open that thing up, fire us off a message, let us know whatever's on your heart, whatever's on your mind, any questions, comments, cares, or concerns that you might have. Also, if you have any complaints, you shouldn't, but you might, you can send that on over to us also. Maybe you have a suggestion for a guest or a topic you want us to cover, send it on over. I'd love to hear from you guys. Now, if you're anything like me, you don't like to use the web forms because of those stupid CAPTCHA things. So email me instead, info@joerooz.com. That's info@joerooz.com. gmail.com. Also, please don't forget, folks, that this is a live show, weeknight, 7 p.m. Central Time, 8 p.m. Eastern. And then, of course, we have our Sunday Bible study show every Sunday afternoon at 2 p.m. Central Time. Make sure you check it out. You can find us on Rumble at rumble.com/Joe Rooz. You can find us on YouTube, if you're still there, at Joe Rooz there as well. If you want to check out the live audio, it streams live on our website or on any of the modern Podcast 2.0 apps. And if you want to listen to it later on, hey, wherever you get your podcast. So head over there and check that out. Also, very, very important that you like, subscribe, and share the show for us. That way you'll help to spread it, mess around with the algorithm, get us on people's, especially if you don't like somebody, share this with them on their social media. All right? We might benefit from it more than you do, but you could do that. We'd appreciate it. All right. Our shout-outs, of course, to our producing team, our executive producers, Wayne Rankin, Rosanna Rankin, Carolina Jimenez, Angela Watuski, and, of course, John Seeley. These folks donate their time, their talent, and their treasure to help put these shows together. And honestly, there's a lot of stuff we wouldn't be able to do if it wasn't for their support. So if you want to find out more about how you can help us out, please head over to the website, joerooz.com/support, the support page on the website. Take a look at that. And if you can, and if you have the means and you're able to do it, we'd appreciate any support you can help us out with. Now, the producers, very important. I want to tell you this, because if you sign up as a producer, you have the associate producer, which is $17.76 a month. And then you have producer level is $18.36 a month. And then you have executive producer, which is $25 a month. All the producers get shout outs on the show, every single one of you. You also get included in all of our show notes. You get included in any of the promotional emails that we send out. And on top of that, the executive producers get to come on the show. That's why we do our Wednesdays with Wayne. Wayne's the only one of them with the guts to do it. So he comes on the show every Wednesday, and we have a great conversation about homesteading and practical prepping. That's his niche, and that's what we talk about. It's great stuff, really great information, so you should check that out if you haven't. You also get an IMDb credit. That's a professional credit that you can include on your resume if you're brave enough to do that. You can put down, hey, you're the producer of a podcast. Wonderful news. Do it. Check it out. All right. And we do that for you because without your support, we couldn't do what we do. All right. So please, if you would, take a look at the website. If you can help us out, I would really appreciate it. All right. Well, with all of that said, I just want to say thank you once more time to Jeff K. for joining us and spending an hour and 30 minutes with us. That's torture for most standards. All right. So thank you to Jeff. Thank you for spending your evening here with us. We look forward to seeing you next time right here. And until then, folks, make Texas independent again. Go podcasting. Keep a steady stride. More importantly, folks, keep talking. We will see you next time. Good night and goodbye.